David Parker Ray, the toy box killer who may have murdered over 50 women. Between the mid-1950s and the late 1990s, David Parker Ray abducted numerous women in New Mexico, subjecting them to horrific abuse within his infamous toy box torture chamber. Cynthia Vigil, a 22-year-old woman, was working as a sex worker in a parking lot in Albuquerque, New Mexico on March 19, 1999. She was approached by a man who claimed to be an undercover police officer and falsely arrested her for solicitation. This man turned out to be David Parker Ray, who took her to his soundproof trailer known as the Toy Box nearby. In the trailer, Vigil was chained to a table and subjected to 3 days of rape and torture by Ray, along with his girlfriend Cindy Hendy. They used various tools and methods to torment her, including whips, medical instruments, sexual devices, and electric shocks. Prior to the torture, Ray would play a cassette tape detailing the horrors she would endure, instructing her to refer to him as master and his girlfriend as mistress. He threatened her, claiming she would never see her family again and that he would kill her like he had done to others. Vigil later recalled feeling like Ray was experienced in his cruel actions, instilling fear and hopelessness in her. On the third day, as David Parker Ray was away at work, Hendy inadvertently left the keys to Vigil's restraints on a table close to where Vigil was bound. Taking advantage of the situation, Vigil made a sudden move for the keys and managed to free her hands. Despite Hendy's efforts to prevent her escape, Vigil successfully defended herself by using an ice pick to injure Hendy. Subsequently, Vigil fled from the trailer unclothed, with only a slave collar and padlocked chains adorning her. In a state of desperation, she sought refuge by knocking on the door of a neighboring mobile home. The homeowner graciously welcomed Vigil inside and promptly contacted the authorities, leading to the swift arrest of both David Parker Ray and Cindy Hendy and the revelation of their heinous crimes. The early life of David Parker Ray. David Parker Ray, born in Belen, New Mexico in 1939, had a childhood shrouded in mystery, with limited information available about his upbringing except for being primarily raised by his grandfather and enduring abuse from his father. Despite facing bullying for his shyness towards girls during his youth, Ray turned to substance abuse as a coping mechanism. Following his service in the U.S. Army and subsequent honorable discharge, Ray went through 4 marriages and eventually found employment as a mechanic at New Mexico state parks. The exact commencement of Ray's criminal activities remains uncertain, but it is speculated to have initiated in the mid-1950s. The revelation of his crimes only surfaced after Vigil managed to escape. Inside the toy box killer's torture chamber, following the arrest of David Parker Ray for the abduction of Vigil, law enforcement swiftly secured a warrant to search his residence and trailer, as reported by True TV. The contents discovered inside the trailer left the authorities shocked and disturbed. Ray's infamous toy box featured a gynecologist-style table at its center, complete with a ceiling-mounted mirror allowing victims to witness the atrocities inflicted upon them. Strewn across the floor were an array of disturbing items including whips, chains, pulleys, straps, clamps, surgical blades, saws, and an assortment of sex toys. Among the findings was a wooden device believed to have been used to restrain Ray's victims during the heinous acts committed by him and his accomplices. The walls were adorned with chilling diagrams illustrating various methods of inflicting pain. However, the most horrifying discovery within the trailer was a videotape dated back to 1996, depicting a terrified woman enduring rape and torture at the hands of Ray and his girlfriend, the known victims of David Parker Ray. In the wake of the publicized arrest of David Parker Ray for his abduction of Cynthia Vigil, another woman has come forward with a similar account. Angelica Montano, an acquaintance of Ray's, was subjected to a horrifying ordeal after visiting his residence to borrow cake mix. She was drugged, raped, and tortured by Ray before being abandoned near a highway in the desert. Fortunately, Montano was discovered alive by the police, but her case had not received any subsequent attention. Ray frequently administered drugs to his victims during their torment, utilizing substances such as sodium pentothal and phenobarbital to impair their memory of the events if they managed to survive the torture. However, with both Vigil and Montano willing to testify against Ray, the case against the toy box killer gained significant strength. The police were able to apply pressure on Ray's girlfriend and accomplice, Cindy Hendy, who swiftly cooperated and provided authorities with information regarding the abductions. Hendy's testimony led the police to uncover the fact that Ray had received assistance from multiple individuals during the kidnappings and sexual assaults. Among Ray's accomplices were his own daughter, Glenda Jessie Ray, and his friend, Dennis Roy Yancey. Disturbingly, some of these brutal attacks resulted in murder. Yancey later confessed to his involvement in the savage killing of Marie Parker. She had been abducted, drugged, and subjected to days of torture by Ray and his daughter before Yancey ultimately strangled her to death in 1997. Despite the horrifying account mentioned above and the disturbing implications it holds for the unknown victims of David Parker Ray, there is a glimmer of hope as one woman managed to survive the torment inflicted by the toy box killer. Surprisingly, this survivor is the same individual who was seen being subjected to rape and torture in the 1996 videotape discovered in Ray's trailer. After certain details about the woman in the video were made public, she was identified as Kelly Garrett by her former mother-in-law. Garrett had been a former friend of Jessie, David Parker Ray's daughter and accomplice. On July 24, 1996, Garrett had an argument with her then-husband and decided to spend the night playing pool at a local saloon with Jessie in order to calm down. Little did Garrett know, Jessie had drugged her beer without her knowledge. Subsequently, Jessie and her father took advantage of Garrett's incapacitated state and brought her to the toy box killer's trailer, where David Parker Ray subjected her to rape and torture for a period of 2 days. Eventually, Ray slit her throat and callously left her for dead on the side of the road. Miraculously, Garrett managed to survive the brutal assault. However, her husband and the authorities doubted her account of the events. In fact, her husband, convinced that she had been unfaithful to him that night, initiated divorce proceedings in the same year. As a result of the medication's impact, Garrett's memory of the incidents during that period was restricted, yet he could recall being sexually assaulted by the toy box killer. The disturbing legacy of the toy box killer. David Parker Ray's criminal activities are thought to have occurred between the mid-1950s and the late 1990s. His ability to evade capture for such an extended period of time can be attributed to his choice of victims, predominantly women from disadvantaged backgrounds. Moreover, the administration of drugs to his victims significantly decreased the likelihood of survivors being able to recall the events accurately. Disturbingly, many aspects of Ray's offenses remain shrouded in mystery, including the number of potential fatalities. Despite never facing a murder conviction, it is estimated that he may have been responsible for the deaths of more than 50 women. During the investigation of the toy box killer's residence, law enforcement discovered evidence implicating Ray in numerous homicides. Among the findings were journals penned by Ray detailing the gruesome demise of multiple women. Additionally, authorities recovered a vast array of personal belongings such as jewelry and clothing, believed to have belonged to Ray's victims, as reported by the FBI. Despite the extensive effort put into his toy box, David Parker Ray may have had numerous potential murder victims. However, despite the evidence, authorities were unable to pursue additional cases. Even though Hendy and Yancey pointed out areas where they suspected Ray disposed of bodies, no human remains were found by the police in those locations. The exact number of people murdered by Ray may never be known, but his crimes against Vigil, Montano, and Garrett were enough to ensure a life sentence. The toy box killer was ultimately sentenced to 224 years in prison, while Jesse Ray received a 9-year sentence. Cindy Hendy was sentenced to 36 years in prison. Despite this, both were released early and are currently free. David Parker Ray passed away on May 28, 2002 due to a heart attack, shortly after commencing his life sentence. He was 62 years old when he died. Despite the passage of several years, law enforcement agencies are persistently striving to establish links between the toy box killer and his numerous presumed murder victims. In 2011, during an interview, FBI spokesman Frank Fisher stated, "We continue to receive valuable leads. As long as these leads keep coming in and the media attention continues to generate interest in the case, our investigation will persist." Thanks for listening, guys. That is all over with you. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel. There is a lot of shocking story. I will see you guys again.